Hello, everybody. This is a very special occasion. Most of my Patreon videos are international because I have these connections all over the world with fantastic researchers. But this is perhaps the most astounding one of all because we are going to Japan to interview Michel Zirger on his work with Adamski, studying Adamski and George Hart Williamson. But before I introduce him to our people, to our viewers, I'd like to introduce the guy that works with me sometimes as a molder. He's very, very, very courageous. His name is Bill Crowley, and he did most of the research with me on the Giant Rock group. The Orfeo Angelucci research that we did in Burbank is on my YouTube, and you'll see Bill there. Plus, Bill became very interested in the Giant Rock situation, so of course, Bill is going to be interested in the study of Adamski. And Bill, say hello and say where you're coming from.
Hi, everyone. I'm coming to you from Santa Ana, California, which is kind of near Disneyland, Southern California.
Yeah, and Bill has been interested in this on his own, and we just happened to connect. And then Bill, for people that don't know this yet, came to Peru on the expedition in the Andes with Ricardo Gonzalez, and he was our right-hand man. We could never have done it without him. And it's these kinds of people, these kinds of volunteers that we have to herald, because there is no money in this and nobody subsidizes this stuff. And it has to be pure passion. So thank you for your passion, Bill.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And thank you for your passion in helping me with Michel Zirger. Michel is French, though. Michel, you're French.
Yes, I'm French.
What are you doing in Japan?
It's because of Adamski. Because my Adamski's friends were living in Japan. So I came to Japan. And I've been living in Japan for 26 years now.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
My goodness.
Lord. 26 years.
I'm nearly Japanese.
Well, we're all one species. We're all human anyway. So the thing is that Michel, though, it has done a lot of work, and I read his book, We Are Here, Visitors Without Passports, which I've done a book review on already. People need to read this book. People need to look at the human type of visitors that were here, not only in the 1950s in Giant Rock and with Eugenio Siracusa in Italy and the Latin Americans, but they need to know that we've been visited with people that look like us for specific reasons with specific messages. The thing I like about this book is that you talk about Paris, Michel. You talk about beings, and I wanted to see the ones that you have the drawings of here, that lived in an apartment building in Paris, and you had talked to people that knew they were not from here. How did you approach these people? How did they know you were interested in this? These are the images that just got to me from this book.
This is another contactee.
Is another contactee?
Another contact. I relate his stories in my book.
Okay, so and
he met this kind of people in south of France.
In south of France.
In south of France.
Where was it?
Near Nice.
Near Nice. And he knew they weren't from here.
He knew they were not from here.
So because the title is they are here, but they don't have passports. So
my own encounter was this man.
Oh, you actually met that man?
This man I met in Tokyo.
In Tokyo.
In Tokyo, yes, and this woman in Tokyo also.
Oh Lord, in Tokyo. And what was it about them that made you feel they were not from here?
It was I cannot relate everything, but it was a very. I had witnesses with me. My wife was there. A cousin of my wife was there, And so I have witnesses, but it was very strange, very strange. The woman, for instance, we met her in a restaurant twice, and she was very she was drinking a glass of water, but she was very slow in drinking the glass, and she looked at me with hard gaze, eyes, and I received, I cannot relate every detail, but I received telepathic message the first time. And in a nutshell, she said to me, you have to change your way of living.
Oh.
Change your way of living. And the very night, I changed my way of living because I asked my wife, my future wife, to marry me.
Oh.
Oh, that's a very romantic story. I love that story.
So we met her once, first time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to meet her again, this woman, this strange woman, extraterrestrial. So we went 2 months after in the same restaurant.
Oh my goodness.
Near Tokyo. So we enter in the restaurant. Of course, she was not there. Of course, she was not there. But I went to the toilet.
Yeah.
3 minutes. And when I come back, she was there, seated at the same place. So during three minutes, she entered in the restaurant. And so I was shocked to see her a second time. So I sat near my wife at the table, and like the first time, this woman was very slow, and very strange eyes, etc. So this time I wanted to do test if she was a special person. So I had never done this, but I send telepathic message. And the first test I send 3 times. It's very easy, but I send 3 times. I'm going to take my glass, I'm going to drink, and you are going to drink at the same time. And so I drink, and she did the same. We drink at the same time. But it was not a proof. So I try something more difficult. I send 3 times another message. The message was, please open your bag, take out a notebook, and write something on the notebook. So I sent this message 3 times, and I was surprised. She did it. She opened the bag, she take out a notebook, she writes something on a page, and she tore the page and she shows the page.
Oh no!
Not to me, to the wall in front of her. And she did it again. She writes something, she tore the page, very, very slow, very slow. And she shows the paper to the wall in front of me. And at the same time, she was turning her head towards me with very hard eyes. So I said to my wife, okay, she's a space people.
Oh my God. So you didn't do anything after that? You didn't speak to her?
No, it was difficult to ask her, are you a space people? It was
I know.
difficult.
I know.
So she went to go out of the restaurant. So she paid, and we were just behind her. And she go out of the restaurant. I go out 3 seconds after her. There was no one, nowhere.
Oh.
Disappeared.
She disappeared.
She disappeared.
Oh.
Nobody. So that's why.
So Michel, were you interested in these human type extraterrestrials before you saw her?
Yes, I was interested in Adamski. It was in 1994. These two events was in 1994 when I came to Japan.
And when were you interested in Adamski and Williamson? What was the date?
Well, I've always been interested in Adamski, but mostly I started research in 1981, 1990s.
Oh.
And what did you do for a living? What were you doing?
Before, I was working in the dubbing business to dub TV drama. TV drama, and in Japan, I was a French teacher.
So were you dubbing in Japanese too?
Pardon?
Were you dubbing in Japanese?
No, I was dubbing American TV drama in France.
In French.
In French, translation in French into French.
Okay, so I don't know when I paid attention to you. I don't know when we met. I think I wrote to you after I read this book. And then I gave the book to, or I recommended the book to Bill.
Yep.
Is that what happened? And I said, Bill, this is amazing. We need to talk to this man. And then Bill jumped in the car. Talk about it, Bill, that you were so interested.
Yeah, so I got the book and I just devoured it. It's really is one of the best books in ufology. Michel, you've done a brilliant job in both that book and the second book, which this one too. But I read the first book and I just said, I gotta go. I just knew in my gut I had to go. So I got in my car, I drove. It's about, I don't know, maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hour drive, and into Desert Center, and it was great. So I had your book, Michel, and I was trying to orient where Orthon put his footsteps and where Adamski was with his party, and eventually using the pictures in your book, I could orient and I could find the exact spot, and it was just fantastic.
And then he sent me the pictures immediately and said, Paula, I went there. And
Yeah,
I was shocked.
You were shocked.
That was the first time?
First time.
The first time. Because I gave him the book. And then he goes there. And then he says, I'm here. And I said, why did you go without me? And then this year, when I was in California, he said, I'll take you there. And I went with him. It was amazing. I mean, it was amazing because I recommend this book to everyone. This picture, which is real, of the craft over that hill, I could almost see the craft. We were on location and I could almost see the craft over that hill. This picture is called, this book is called Authentic the George Adamski case, and it's very detailed measurements and so forth. And there, Bill, thank you. Talk so that we can tell them what that is.
So this picture in Michel's second book is a colorized photo of the original photo that was taken in 1952. And this is of Orthon, whom George Adamski met. And this was Orthon said he was from Venus, but we know he was from outer space, a humanoid.
But this photo was unpublished. Nobody knew this photo.
No, it was unpublished, but it was something you did. I have to show this because this was Bill's first picture that he sent you. So you put it in your book, Authenticating.
Very good picture.
Adamski. Yes, it was a very great picture. This book is the most amazing book. Adamski is discounted by 90% of the UFO researchers.
I know this.
Because they never bothered to do the research. They never bothered to find out about it. And Bill and I spent a couple of hours listening to Adamski audio tapes. And if people would listen to his audio tapes, they'd know that he was making perfect sense. He was telling the truth, and he was trying to change or shift shift things in the 1950s.
And he never changed his speech, basically the same message for many decades that he went around the globe speaking to foreign dignitaries, royalty. His story was always the same, and it was about consciousness and stopping nuclear war.
And changing the economy from a war and reconstruction economy to a space-based economy where we would meet these people, because there's just as much money to be made in outer space. In the 1960s, when Kennedy wanted us to go to the moon, there was just as much money and economy behind that than having a war economy where you must create the wars. And that was the message that Bill and I heard on the tapes. Now I'm going to go to you, Michel. What made you interested in Adamski in the first place?
I was a mainstream ufologist. So I was reading Jack Valley, Hynek, but around the 1990s, at the beginning of the 1990s, I thought maybe they dismissed a little the extraterrestrial hypothesis, Jack Valley mostly, and I thought maybe I should go back to my first love, flying saucers have landed. So I go back to this book in the French edition, and I noticed that nobody knew anything about George Hunt Williamson. Dr. George Hunt, who is this man? In Flying Saucers Have Landed, we don't know. There is no information about George Hunt Williamson.
We do say, I'm going to stop you. It was written by Desmond Leslie, who I met years after with Colonel Corso, and I spent a lot of time reading, talking to Desmond Leslie. He was an RAF pilot, so there's no George Hunt Williamson in there.
But in the Adamski's account, in Flying Saucers Have Landed, Adamski talk about Dr. George Hunt Williamson, but he doesn't give much information about George Hunt Williamson. So I decided I'm going to do research on George Hunt Williamson and at the same way on George Adamski. And I've been doing this for 20 years now. That's my first interest in Adamski.
That's how you got started. And you just showed me before some manuscripts of George Hunt Williamson behind you. Do you want to show us some of that? You said did you buy his
Yeah, I bought it through someone in Florida. Robert Girard, maybe you know him. Robert Girard. It was a bookshop sailor, very famous in ufology. Robert Girard. So he needed money. He needed money, so he sold everything he had. He sold all Williamson archives. So I bought, for instance, Other Tongue of the Flesh. So you have, but you know the photo, but this is...
Other Tongues, Other Flesh, and that's one of his books.
This is the original photo.
Goodness. Oh my goodness.
The original.
Desert Center.
The original of their Desert Center encounter, and with, oh my goodness. Can you put it really close up to the screen?
So the photo he's showing right now, that's George Hunt Williamson is kneeling down at the footprints where Orthon made. And
the original print, and there is no negative. Negative have disappeared. There is no negative. So this is the first generation prints.
Fantastic.
It's like this situation, right?
Yeah.
And these here are the footprints.
Yeah.
Photo of the footprints.
That's amazing. And then George Hunt Williamson did plaster casts of them.
Yes, and he did also a drawing of the footprints, original drawing by Williamson.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So this is right footprint, and Left footprint. This is the right footprint with the famous swastika on the.
Fantastic.
That's fantastic. Well, you know, these are proof. This is proof. This is evidence that this story needs to be looked at seriously. It's evidence, more evidence than other stories that have no.
So much evidence in the Adamski case. There is 6 witnesses,
Yep.
Right,
plaster cast of the footprints.
right.
There is about 10 photos of UFOs.
So now all 7 of them signed legal affidavits.
Affidavits, yes. The 6. Adamski didn't.
6.
The witnesses, the 6 witnesses signed the affidavits. So there is many evidence, a lot of it. Much more than Roswell.